A kind-hearted farmer called Jin lived in a small, quiet village between fields of golden wheat and old whispering woods, and worked his poor little farm with love and devotion. And even though he could hardly make the ends meet, and on a bright morning as he was strolling in his field of sunflower seeds and admiring the warm sunshine and singing birds, he heard desperate, terrified twittering noises under a large oak tree, and found a little beautiful sparrow with shining brown and gold feathers stuck between the sharp claws of a hungry orange cat. And without thinking of his own safety, in 7 days the wing of the sparrow was quite well healed, and the sparrow fluttered about on the shoulder of Jin happily, though not flying away to freedom, but remaining on the same spot. And in a wonderful morning the sun was shining sunshine through the window when the sparrow opened its tiny beak and spoke to Jin in its sweet musical voice that would have filled him with wonder had he not known that the sparrow was something of magic. And with this gift of miracle, thus spoke on that particular day, and each day after, as long as he continued to take such good care of him. And Jin could hardly imagine he heard it. And the very next morning the grateful sparrow flew through his window, bearing in his small beak one golden seed, and placed it with the utmost care in the wrinkled hand of Jin, where it throbbed with warm magic light and sparkles. And the sparrow said with a twinkling eye, "Plant this seed, and speak out of your heart what you really need, and you will have just that which you really need. But be careful not to take more than you need. You are only to take what you need and nothing more, that which the greedy want." Jin planted the original magic seed in his poor garden and said his magic words, "I must make my crops healthy so I can feed my family." And before his astonished eyes grew a beautiful, strong tomato plant, and grew and grew and produced the finest tasting bright tomatoes he had ever tasted. And each morning the loyal sparrow came and dropped a single magic seed, and Jin used them well and grew vegetables to feed his family, and herbs to heal his sick wife who was lying miserable months, and flowers to cheer up sad neighbors, and fruit trees to share with all the villagers. And little by little his life changed, as but the older brother Taro, who lived in the adjoining village, had heard of the marvelous sparrow. And his heart put in the darkness of jealous greed. And he went to Jin with successive smiles and with bright eyes, and pretended to be delighted. But inside him was a plan. And the sparrow came bringing every day the gleaming seed, and wicked thoughts evolved in his mind like thorny weeds. And late one night when Jin was asleep, Taro entered the cottage and told the sparrow, with artificial sweetness, that he was very ungrateful. Why not give him all the seeds? But the shrewd magical sparrow looked at greedy Taro with the understanding eyes and said nothing. And frustrated Taro came the next day and wept aloud before Jin and said to him, "Brother, thou shalt make that bird give thee all the magic seeds all at once, and stop being a fool. Think how fortune we might have. Think how power we might be. We could be the richest of men in all the kingdom." Initially, Jin would hear none of that, remembering the warning the sparrow had told him about greed, and thankful to begin with that the sparrow had brought him every day, and Jin could feel the blessing it had brought him in every corner of his life. But Taro was relentless and sly as a snakeskin, and day after day and week after week he came to the sparrow and snarled his venomous words down his throat and to his very heart. And after 1 month of constant encouragement on the part of his brother and the growing greed within his own heart, Jin went. To the bright eyes of the little sparrow filled with deep sorrow and disappointment, and the tears in its little face were the diamonds of tears, and it sang in its disadvantageous, heartbroken voice, "Oh, Jin, I told you never to let the greed come into your grateful heart, and I have brought you one perfect seed at a time, not because I am withholding, but because daily blessings are the things that teach patience and gratitude and an awareness that enough is enough. And all the seeds I bring to you I make fresh out of my own life and the love in my heart to thee, and the magic only. And before Jin could make apology, could implore forgiveness, the beautiful, appreciative sparrow fluttered out the window with the tears streaming and soaring away into the big blue sky in a shower of golden spangles that effloresced like deceased stars. And Jin ran while screaming after it, saying, "Please come back. I am sorry. I was so foolish. Please forgive me." But the sparrow was lost forever. And by the time Jin came home heartbroken to his cottage, all the magic plants that had grown out of the magic seeds had withered and died overnight. The tomatoes had turned to dust, the magic herbs had melted to ashes, the beautiful flowers had fallen apart, and even the fruit trees had become barren and sterile. And his fields had gone back to the struggling state in which he had last seen them, and his wife was beginning to grow sick again without the magic healing herbs, and the plenty and the joy had gone out of his Jin. Jin sank on his knees crying bitterly, and with a belated chance to see what his avarice had cost him, and his brother Taro, who had brought him. All this trouble felt no contrition, and simply shrugged his shoulders and walked away to find another plan. And Jin was so overcome with sorrow and remorse that he spent the rest of his days sitting under the old oak tree on which he had first rescued the sparrow, and gazed up at the sky in despair, hoping to have one more opportunity to see his little friend, and called out his excuses to the sky and snickered his app. Old broken Jin would tell the emotional story to the village children, and parents would use his heart-rending tale to show their own children how greed eats up all the blessings and wealth, however supernatural, how only patience and daily gratitude help us always keep our blessings, and that impatience and greed are a deadly poison that consumes everything beautiful in its path. How the most wonderful magic of life is not in having all things at once, but in being able to love and cherish the faithful blessings of everyday life. And how the story of old broken Jin taught the village that everything beautiful is always better preserved when it is kept.